Hi guys, welcome to Astrology and Earth Magic. Thanks for joining me today as we talk about our new moon in the sign of Cancer that is coming up this upcoming Tuesday, the 14th of July at 5:43 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this is going to be at 21 degrees, 59 minutes of the sign of Cancer. The new moon in Cancer will point us to what needs our attention first before we can continue our destined path, and why we must find this healing within ourselves in order to find and keep love and companionship. A new moon in Cancer just encourages us to create a safe and nurturing space, and this is a place to feel at home and feel protected, grounded, a place where that you just feel like you belong, kind of like the moon is when it's in its domicile, the sign of Cancer, where she's at home, comfortable, and in full vitality. This comfort and security can be found within your home. It can be a place in, nature perhaps, where you just find a lot of peace around you. It can be a spiritual mindset that you get through meditation, yoga, saying different mantras, even in the form of comfort food. That's why it's called that. Do you find comfort in certain foods that remind you of home, that remind you of growing up and your heritage? And this can even be in a person, a special person that takes you back, like your mom. So you can always go running home to her, or maybe even a movie. So an example, for instance, we were on a flight a couple years ago, and it was really, really turbulent flight, and I was really scared. I'm not a good flyer. I hate flying. I love traveling. I just hate getting there, the flight itself. So I was so scared that this was going to be it. So horror movies are like a thing that I've always been drawn to my whole life. And so I actually put on a couple horror movies that I've seen 100 times before, but just, I used to watch them. I remember when my parents would be away on a Saturday night and I'd be home by myself and I'd be scared and I'd watch it. It was The Shining was one of them. And then The Ring is a little bit newer. I was older when that came out. But those are the ones I watch. And they gave me a strange comfort to not stress over the turbulent flight. So you can find that comfort really anywhere, and anything that just brings you a little bit of peace and a little bit of that feeling of being home and secure. So however you find it, however it calms your anxiety and it calms your stress levels, and it just brings clarity. And with that clarity, you are able to give yourself to others in the fullest and purest of ways, without any of that burden holding you down and keeping you away from, giving yourself to the fullest. And then someday you could perhaps be their space, their safe space, and their soft pillow to fall on. So you never want to be afraid to go into this shell that you need. If you feel the need to just get away and just to take some time for yourself, you don't need to feel guilty about it. Just to get away from all the bullshit in the outside world that's going on. So even if you're at work, now I'm not saying to go, have your safe space at work and you have to go and take breaks and get up and leave or anything like that, and leave all your coworkers hanging. I just mean maybe have some crystals or stones that you really resonate with, that can, say mentally some things that will help calm you. Even maybe some breathing exercises, if you know some, like yoga breathing, pranayama, some belly breathing, that can really help to kind of ground you a little bit and kind of bring you back into yourself if you're feeling like you're spinning out of control. Now, this could be especially needed now as we're going through so much profound changes as a collective society. This new moon takes on really more of an urgency kind of feeling because of our planet of love, of balance, of peace and harmony, which is the planet Venus, is really bringing us anything but all that she's all about. Due to a lot of the major aspects she's making, the aspect pattern she's making, and her overall condition during this new moon, she's really playing a key part in the overall condition of this new moon. Our new moon also is in a conjunction with Mercury retrograde. So it's actually in a separating conjunction. So it's really pointing out the fact that with this, in order to grow and wax with that new moon and to plant these new seeds, to grow something new and to start a new chapter, we need to separate from that, Mercury retrograde, that things dwelling in the past that keep coming back up and keep, kind of holding us back. So we need to separate from that in order to plant those seeds and start that new chapter and grow in our lives so that we can be open to really evolve spiritually and enabling us to give fully into our relationships, no matter what those relationships are. But again, Venus is in a bad way, and it really forces us, her condition, to focus on the essence of the Venus spirit. So the first issue that Venus is having is she is in the sign of her fall, which is in the sign of Virgo. This is where she doesn't feel, she feels weak. She feels maybe a little bit misunderstood. She doesn't feel like her normal, happy, harmonious self, maybe a little bit bitter, nitpicky, that kind of thing, a little too focused on perfection. She's also squaring Uranus, that's in the sign of Gemini. Both of those signs are ruled by Mercury, which is in retrograde. The third thing she's got going on is she is in a Yod, and that's also known as the finger of God, if you have heard of that aspect pattern, to our tightening sextile of Neptune and Pluto. So a Yod, if you're not familiar with that, it's pointing to the fact that we need to leave the past in the past and take the lessons we've learned and move on. So what is a Yod? What is the aspect pattern? It's when two planets, in this case, Neptune and Pluto, are in a sextile, like these two are. And both of those planets are then quincunx to a focal planet, and that focal planet here is Venus. So this sextile normally with, under better circumstances would be very beneficial, because with that Neptune, it's dissolving those old destructive habits that we've had, those old destructive patterns, and giving you the ability to free yourself, to release and let go of the things that kind of hold you, from that negativity that holds you back from being open and giving your fullest self. The Yod points to what is, first, it's what is in need for our attention. So it is pointing to Venus, and you have to kind of address this in order for really emotional and spiritual growth. Venus, who is the apex of the Yod, so we have the two planets here that are in that sextile, and then they give a point, which is called also, like I said, the finger of God, and because it kind of looks like it's like pointing, kind of like that. I think it's the Da Vinci picture, or I'm not sure who painted that. Could be Michelangelo. I'm not sure. Anyway, if you know, definitely let me know in the comments. But it's that pointing. So in the quincunx to Neptune and Pluto, so unable and unwilling to see the path forward, and it needs your attention before it can really get on its way and kind of continue on. There's kind of like just something that's blocking. Maybe you're not seeing yourself or your partner or even your friendships as ideal. So maybe you had like a bigger vision of what they were going to look like, and maybe it's just not panning out to be exactly that bliss that you were hoping for. The relationship might not be the illusion again of what you imagined it could be when you guys first got together. And of course, there's always that honeymoon phase that comes along with relationships, and then you kind of get into your everyday mundane life, which is kind of how Venus feels when she is in the sign of Virgo. So maybe you're not feeling free. Maybe you can be, in this instance, self-sabotaging if you're not really addressing the issues that are coming up. Maybe you're self-sabotaging even on purpose, so that maybe this person will stop being your friend, or your partner will stop wanting to partner up. So like, okay, I can't depend on them, you know, and so on and so forth. So again, Venus in Virgo is square to Uranus and Gemini. So both signs ruled by Mercury that is now retrograde. So the relationship may have started with an obsession, that Pluto, with the person as a romantic partner, maybe even with a friend, the excitement of the fun they could bring, the connections they could bring you, networking maybe, or even a partnership. Again, it could, you were excited because you're like, this person can get me to meet all the right people and give me all the right connections, and the success and the union that that could bring for maybe financial growth, or career growth. But when the challenges of everyday life come into play, this is that Venus in Virgo that comes to face like reality, and to stop seeing things all blissful and happy and actually see the reality of it. Venus in Virgo is off balance and can be emotionally distant. She can be overly controlling. So you might feel these traits as Venus is going through Virgo. You might feel that you're being extra critical of your partner, of maybe your friends, extra overly critical, almost naggy. Maybe you're overly concerned with the thought of perfection, and that, you know, things aren't good enough, and you have to, you know, and it's leaving just that discomfort in you, where you just don't feel harmonious, where you don't feel like you're in balance. You feel off balance because of this something that's just eating at you, that just doesn't feel right, that it just feels off balance. You know, maybe you have your standards just too high and too unreachable. Maybe you just thought it was going to be so much more than it was going to be, and that it didn't ended up being that much more. So, which can be with that Neptune and Pluto sextile, where you can see things. Again, you begin to, with Neptune in a good aspect to Venus. It can be starting off a new blissful relationship and being excited for this person, but not being able to see their faults and not being able to see any of the red flags there, because you're too interested in just getting this whole relationship going. So, you know, you're seeing things through rose-colored glasses, and then that Pluto added in there can almost bring that obsession in there, when you're obsessed with this dream that you have of what it could have been. Maybe you feel like you can only find true harmony in a way that might not, you know, and you might not be able to become unfixated on that. So you might only say like, and this doesn't only have to be with friends, this could be also with money and with, you know, like romantic relationships, partnerships, all that kind of thing. You might be just fixated on it's got to be one way or the highway, and you don't have that compromise in there. So you have to kind of really force yourself to look at that if you are going through these issues. And that's what this Yod is doing. It is forcing us to look at what could be bringing us issues in our relationships and within ourselves, that we might be self-sabotaging them. So the mundane aspects, again, could make you just really just disenchanted, you know, instead of it being all, you know, fun and just blissful, and we spend all day in bed together just loving each other, and instead they're leaving their toothbrush out, and they're not rinsing out the sink good enough, and their socks are maybe laying on the floor. So you could be a little bit disenchanted with the reality of it all. And again, you could be starting that self-sabotage, becoming that overly nitpicky, becoming that kind of person that you promise you'd never be, and that you just be this nagging, you know, wife, or this annoying friend that keeps picking on somebody, you know, nagging about their relationships and putting in your 2 cents where maybe they don't belong. So maybe you and this is going to also sabotage the ability that you have to really build these everlasting love and friendships that could really last you a lifetime, especially friendships that, you know, once you get spurned, you can just split that up, and they might just be like, you know what, I'm kind of done with all this, and then you could really regret it going down the pike. Same thing with a relationship. You could realize, okay, well, maybe they did leave their socks around, but maybe that wasn't so bad, or maybe my partner in business was a little bit frivolous with money, and maybe I shouldn't have been so vocal and angry about it, because Venus also does rule finances and money, and Venus in Virgo can be extra cheap, I guess you could say, thinking they're being practical, but really being kind of like miserish in a way. So, which can be good in a lot of ways, because you're not just doing that frivolous spending and overspending like Venus has a tendency to do, because she loves all the most beautiful things in life and loves extravagance and all that. But feeling uneasy, but this could also be because we have that square in with Uranus also. So you could be kind of flying off the bat about something that you may not agree with, instead of just kind of going along with it and compromising, like I said. You could be feeling uneasy, maybe because your relationship maybe you feel it's unstable because of these things that keep coming out. Like maybe, okay, we're going to sign a prenup, or we're going to have more rules when it comes to a partnership. You want to shift focus on that long term if you're not confident that things could fail. So you're like, well, I don't want to lose everything if this doesn't work. So it's kind of looking at the negatives over the positives of what the relationship can bring to you. And you kind of want to look past that, and you want to look at, okay, this could have some negative effects, but you don't want to just automatically go into a relationship thinking that you're going to get divorced and they're going to steal all your money. So you want to kind of, try and have a little bit of a compromise there, so that you don't just overall alienate someone and say it has to be this way or no way. So that emotional connection that Venus has with money and the materialistic can become downright, like I said, miserly, like you're just very selfish. And again, you could, sorry about that. Again, let me get that standing up. So again, it could sabotage the growth that you have, and maybe in these, growth in your joint business ventures, in buying a home, buying the home of your dreams with the person that you love. It's like, oh, we don't need anything like that. And you buy something that you're not quite happy with. Or even be able to really compromise financially in the end. Venus also is conjunct the South Node. So this can be good and bad in a way, because that can bring that feeling of home and that feeling of comfort, but you also might be too afraid to get out of that feeling of comfort. You might just be, I don't want to move out of my comfort zone. I'm happy here. I'm just going to stay with this and not go towards that North Node, which is what you're destined for in this life. And that South Node also brings those that bad karma, the pains, the things that come back from, say, a past life that hold you back, and you're not able to let go of that to move forward in this life. And along with the Mercury retrograde too, that really emphasizes that and brings back a lot of those past destructive patterns that you may have had, keeping you unable to dissolve those boundaries that you've been putting up. Because of these past heartaches, because of these past failures, because of your insecurities that you have, because of these things. This is where the Cancer new moon encourages us to move in a different direction, to plant a new seed and to start a new chapter in our lives. Kind of think about moving in a different direction, like the crab itself, which is that symbol of Cancer. So it doesn't take that straight route like you might be going on. It takes like an undefined route and goes side to side to side to side. And maybe you need to do that a little bit. You need to stay off your straight and narrow and that strictness that you have put yourself in, and that keeps just leading you in the same direction. I like the same type of people. I like the same type of foods. Instead of trying something a little bit different and doing something a little bit different, maybe putting your heart on your sleeve and going out there. And that could really be something that this Cancer new moon can help with. It could help really just get you out of your shell a little bit instead of, just having you crawl back into your shell. But the Uranus square to Venus can bring some spontaneity otherwise, and it can, bring spontaneity to maybe if you're feeling inhibited a little bit, if when you're a little bit overly reserved, like you could be with Venus in the sign of Virgo. You need to leave the past, your comfort, leave your comfort zone behind to build a new safe space. So you don't want to just rely on what has been in the past. You want to try and build a new safe space where you feel good in a new way. So maybe get off that straight and narrow like that crab and go a little bit to the side, go a little bit to this side, try something new, try something, if it's not working, try a new mantra, perhaps try a new yoga pose, a new type of meditation, go on a hike instead of on a walk, whatever can make you feel a little bit better, and maybe a little bit more open to open your mind up a little bit and just, kind of clear your head from all that Virgo can be very busy feeling. It could be very, where your brain is working on overtime and you stop thinking and you're just overthinking everything. And doing this, you want to leave that past zone behind so you can build this new safe place to be a safe place to maybe others in the future. So a place where others can fall and you are that comfort zone, you are that safe space for them. That could be the chapter that you're moving towards. So we have that, towards that North Node in Aquarius where we give ourselves to others a little bit more. So the North Node is moving into the sign of Aquarius at the end of the month, and the South Node's going to be in Leo. So we want to get rid of that kind of selfish focus on just me and put more of it into a we type. And it really can be like a profound spiritual awakening when you realize that, you're in it as a society, you're in it as a collective, and you don't want to just be in it by yourself. You want to have this support system around you to be with you and, giving you this chance at growth, giving you that chance to release that past bad karma so that you can go towards that North Node in your own personal chart and a step towards that destiny that is calling you in this life. And what can help? Really, there also is a applying sextile to the North Node and Chiron. So the North Node and Chiron are moving into a sextile to each other, giving you the wisdom and the ability and the desire also to take the lessons that you've learned from your past. So you can use, like I said, that Venus conjunct the South Node. You can use that those lessons that you learned from the past. You can use those old comfort zones, use those past traumas as lessons that you can, put them to good use. You can not, instead of dwelling on them and having them hold you back, release what they're doing to you so that maybe if you release their hold on you, you can use that knowledge to help others heal as well. And it might not be truly gone. Of course, Chiron, that is the wounded healer. So he always has that wound, but he also uses that to help others. So you always will have these old feelings. You'll always have these things that were in your past that, maybe make you feel a little bit uncomfortable, but you want to change that energy. You want to, use that Pluto to transform that energy into a more positive energy going forward than the negative energy that it's been in the past. So the day after the new moon, as it begins its waxing phase, that phase of new growth, that new chapter, that new cycle beginning, Uranus will be in an exact sextile to Neptune. So that sextile is going to become exact with Uranus on the 15th, so the day after. This can be a catalyst. So we not only have Neptune and Pluto in a very close sextile, we also have Uranus and Neptune moving into a sextile. So this could be a catalyst to promoting that spiritual awakening and promoting that evolution into our new and awakened selves, followed by Uranus moving into an exact trine to Pluto on the 18th. So just 4 days later, we have, this, which could make you feel just liberated, free from the control of the past, the control, that hold that the past had on you. Maybe those old obsessions that you had with the fantasy of what you think life should be, of thinking, oh, my love life needs to be what I see in movies or what I see on Instagram or on TikTok or all this, and I'll lose those illusions and let those illusions dissolve and grow with your own confident new self. Find security within yourself and emerge as a new and independent person, being empowered, and be that safe space for others who are struggling. Be that place that they can fall. So, you want to just really find security within yourself, find confidence in yourself, and find those confidence and security within your relationships so that you can broaden them and move forward and really just be able to really fully open yourself to other people and to this life that is kind of awaiting you on the other side once you let all this go. So keep going through these steps with each new moon, with each new cycle. Keep growing a little bit more and more as you start moving towards that destiny that you have spelled out for you in your natal chart. So I thank you all for watching. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments. And as always, be sure to like, subscribe, and get notified of future videos. It really helps the channel to grow, and I appreciate every single one of your likes, comments, anything, any interaction that you have with the channel really helps out, and I appreciate every single one of you. So I hope you all go ahead today with a peaceful mind, with positive and uplifting, non-disparaging words, and a really full and open heart, confidence and faith in yourself. So I will hope to see you guys soon, and use this as to the fullest that you can use it. I'll see you soon. Bye.